Hi everybody, Ninja Mama here. Right now I just want to kind of go over a few things, and I'm specifically directing this at people who are recovering from narcissistic abuse in their marriage or a romantic relationship that you've recently broken away from. um, while you're recovering, part of the process is you notice, and you may have noticed it during the relationship, that certain narcissistic traits may have you've sort of taken on those defense mechanisms much as the narcissist did, and that's how they became a narcissist. Um, the channel called Escape from Narcissism, she does a good video on this about how she was on her way to becoming a narcissist. I saw certain patterns of behavior in myself during the marriage, specifically last year when things were coming to a head, and I was starting to notice a lot of the YouTubers, they'll refer to it as narcissistic fleas. You catch fleas from the narcissist, sort of. And it happens. And I tell people all the time, it's very hard. I lived with a sadistic narcissist for 19 years, and it's very hard to not have some of it rub off on you. And certainly in my case, I did. And last year, these are some of the things that I noticed about myself. When I would get out of the house and like maybe go out to dinner with some of my girlfriends, I would talk too much. I would let, other people would talk. I wouldn't like totally dominate the conversation the entire dinner, but when it was my turn to talk, it was like diarrhea of the mouth. Like I would go way too long. I think another part of this was you get in the habit of over-explaining yourself because you constantly have to explain because you constantly have someone countering you. The narcissist is constantly countering you, constantly negating what you say. So, and Ollie Matthews always makes reference to this, that you're always on trial with the narcissist. And so you'll get into the habit of doing the TMI thing, giving too much information, and just you get sort of preoccupied, overly preoccupied with what others think about you, because you're used to constantly being blamed, accused, criticized, and it's not really the same thing as what the narc does, because the narc, they are preoccupied with their image and what other people think about them, but it's because they have convinced themselves that everyone admires and envies them. But when we do it, it's because we're trying to kind of preempt being criticized and put down. So we're kind of opposite in that, when you've been a victim of a narcissist, you become convinced that I know in my case, like I started getting like social anxiety, and like I would just get convinced that everyone thought I was a freak, that everyone thought I was weird, everyone thought I was a freak, and no one wanted to talk to me, and everyone thought I was crazy. Some of the other traits I notice, sometimes I would get a little overly passive aggressive, mainly online. Like I was Facebooking too much. I was like spending way too much. I was getting sucked into Facebook like an addict specifically last summer. And I would get sucked into comment threads like you wouldn't believe, and go on and on and on and back and forth with people, and it just got to the point where it was ridiculous, where I cut myself off, like, from commenting on Facebook. Like, I would like my friends' pictures, like, I restricted myself to liking people's pictures, and if I did feel the need to make a comment on an article, like, that I read or something, I would keep it short and to the point and not get argumentative with people. Like, it got out of hand, seriously. And but the important thing is, I realized I had a problem with it, and I stopped doing it. With the narcissist, you will point out that they have a problem with something, and they don't give a crap. They just keep right on doing what they've been doing. Um, I noticed too, like, with the over talking thing, when I noticed that I was doing that, another little rule that I enacted for myself is, when in doubt, just keep it shut. That I find that's a good rule in life. When you start feeling the need to over explain, or you start feeling the need to give your opinion when it wasn't necessarily asked for, when in doubt, just keep it shut. And I find so far that that's a good rule. That's working for me. Another thing I noticed, I was becoming a little oversensitive to criticism, where I would get a little over defensive if someone gave me a little constructive criticism, or maybe pointed out something that I was doing that was obvious and I should have saw, like, maybe a bad decision, but something I was doing that maybe was a bad decision, and they were maybe kind of pointing something out, like, this could be a potential problem, and I would get overly defensive. And again, that's a result of the constantly being on trial, constantly having to explain yourself, constantly being criticized, constantly being questioned about your motives, about what you're doing. You get in the habit of over explaining yourself. So I wanted to mention a channel that it looks like it's fairly new, and it's good, and I found it today. It's called Permission to Exist. She gives really great explanations of, like, workplace narcissists, as well as, like, narcissists that you're in relationships with, whether it's family, whether it's romantic. And she's really concise, and really gives good examples, really explains to a T, like, things that, how they'll, the little things they do, the little things they say, and even gives good ideas on how to defend yourself against them, and even how to kind of fuck with them a little bit. You know, if you're not dealing with a volatile, like a violent narcissist, little ways that you can kind of fuck with them and kind of back them off. You know, sometimes with a narcissist that's on the more moderate part of the scale, and they're not as severe, not as volatile, not as rageful. If you know you're not dealing with that kind of narcissist, sometimes a good defense is to give them a taste of their own medicine, you know, and it counteracts what they're trying to do to you. And when they realize that you're not going to be a soft target, they'll back off. So check out her channel. It's Permission to Exist. One thing that I've kind of been weighing on me during the divorce, and I'm going through a divorce right now, is you know, how sometimes, like, people you were friends with, it was like mutual friends that you hung out with, and you lose touch with them, and it kind of makes you feel bad about yourself. It makes you doubt yourself. Like, gee, I used to see this person all the time, and they've like stopped talking to me. And you start to feel almost like you have the plague, like people are avoiding you, and it's like they're uncomfortable after you split from your spouse and these mutual friends. You start to feel like they're viewing you as toxic waste, almost like they don't want to talk to you or be around you. They're like so uncomfortable. And I just want to say, don't cut them some slack. Don't be too hard on those people, because a lot of times they're uncomfortable because they don't know the full situation. They don't know what happened. They know that something happened, obviously. So, because they figure whoever filed for divorce obviously had some reason to do this, because you don't just break up a 16-year marriage, a 23-year relationship over nothing. So, they don't know the whole story, so they don't want to choose sides. And especially if it's people like, you really hadn't been keeping in touch with in a long time, they just, they're not going to get involved, and they don't want to be in the middle because it's just uncomfortable to be in the middle. Another type of friend sometimes that is going to kind of back off in a situation like this, especially abusive situations, is friends that you have that maybe they're in a similar situation. Cut them a lot of slack, because you were there once too, where you were kind of scared and you knew something's not right in your marriage or your relationship with this person. You know it's not healthy, but you're still kind of holding on to hope that I didn't make a bad decision marrying this person. This is the right thing. We are good. There is still good stuff here, and you keep telling yourself that. And maybe it's part of that, what they call the shared psychosis. Like there was a time when I was walking around thinking to myself, we are awesome. We are great. Everyone wants to be us. We're a terrific couple, and I was in the shared psychosis. I was keeping the blinders on, ignoring red flags, brushing off insults and put downs, and him talking down to me and berating me in front of the kids. I was just brushing it off like, hey, we have more good days than bad, but not like recognizing that when the bad days did happen, they were so horrifically bad, it was damaging to, kids and to me, and just not good for anybody. So cut those people some slack. If they're going to back off and they're not talking to you, and you're like, hey, what's up? Because there's one person in particular I'm thinking of, and her and I had kind of gotten to be a little bit close, and because, husbands were friends, they've been friends since childhood, and her husband is extremely verbally abusive, and I think I spoke about him in the name-calling video that I did, and he was even worse than mine. And I talked about that in that video, how he would scream at her that she was a whore, call her a whore, in public, in front of people, and in front of their son. He'd call her this. And her and I had kind of gotten to be close, and we would kind of commiserate together, about how, what a challenge it was being married to these jackasses that we're married to. And sometimes with these people, friends like this, I think when they're in the same situation, and then you make that push, and you go ahead and push it, you say, I do deserve better, and I'm gonna seek out something better and something different, because what we've been doing ain't working. So I got to do something different because I can't live like this anymore. And you make that push and you get out, and then they're still in it. They haven't reached that level yet to where they're confident. Like maybe they feel like they want to leave, but they don't feel confident enough to do it. They don't believe that they have the resources, whether it's mental, whether it's financial. They don't feel like they can do it. And maybe they even feel abandoned by you. Like you took off and abandoned them. Cut them some slack. Don't be hard on them. Don't try to make them feel bad that they've kind of stopped talking to you or don't want anything to do with you. Because and a lot of times too, when by you trying to make your life better and make yourself healthier and do what's best for your kids, it kind of puts the mirror in front of their faces, in front of their marriage. And maybe they're not ready to face the truth yet, the whole truth about their situation. They know their situation's fucked up. They know. They're not blind, you know. And they're just not ready, maybe, to do what needs to be done. So the best thing you can do is just, you know, if they come to you, that day that they come to you looking for help and they're ready to make that push, you'll be that much further along in the process, and you'll be able to be sort of a rock for them, and you'll be able to help them get through it, especially if they're in a situation where they may not have had the resources that you've had. Because I know in my situation, my family and my close friends have been a tremendous help, my parents especially. And I'm very, very lucky that I have a support system in my life, because not everybody has that. People who came from narcissistic families of origin, they don't have that support system. And, you know, this one person in particular that I'm thinking about, I think she doesn't have that. Her mother is deceased, and her father, you know, he's kind of into his new wife now and her family. And, you know, I think that this friend kind of feels trapped and maybe feels like she does not have a safe haven to go to. So if you've got a friend like that, you know, just kind of, you gotta let them get to that place, the place where you're at. You gotta let them get to it on their own. You can't push people. So don't be too hard on friends like that you've kind of lost touch with after your divorce or after you've split. Another thing I find during recovery is, you know, the wheels are still turning, and I still kind of have a little bit of that always on guard feeling. Like always, I describe it as waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, what's he gonna pull next? What's he gonna do next? How's he going to try to throw me off balance next? You know? So that's something else I've been dealing with. Let's see. Wrote a few notes here. Another thing. Overcorrecting and overreacting with the kids. I've been really working on that hard lately, because that got bad for a while during the marriage, where I was completely overreacting, overcorrecting them, and been really watching how I talk to them now, and just trying to spend more time with them and be more mindful about paying attention to what's bothering them, and asking what's bothering you, how was your day, and because before, when you're so consumed with the narcissist and constantly consumed with doing what you feel needs to be done to avoid an explosion, you end up not being such a great parent, because the narcissist ends up sucking all the attention out of the room. So then the kids kind of get shoved to the side. So I have been making it a point to listen more when they talk and be more present and be more available for them. Not that I wasn't available for them before, because I was the primary caretaker before, you know, but just making sure to talk to them more and listen more. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for right now. I think I've gone on long enough. So, yes, tomorrow I will start working on the final category of verbal abuse, abusive anger. And have a good night, everybody.